of a gill. So what happens is water flows through, and let me get my little probe so I can show you, through the mouth and out through, once I find the way out through the gills. Okay, so it actually constantly flows through. Blood pumps in the opposite direction to what water flows. And what happens is, as the water passes over the gills and comes into contact with the blood, oxygen from the water goes into the blood, carbon dioxide comes out of it, and that's what allows a fish to get gas in and out of its body. So the way that you breathe in and breathe out, they can't. Okay? They need a constant flow of water to actually get oxygen in. Prawns also have gills. They're much harder to see, and it's actually in behind the exoskeleton. So in behind here is where the prawn's gills are. You can actually go in, let me see if I can pop that out to show you. Can everyone see this structure here? Okay, it's not as red as it is in the fish. That's the gill of a prawn. So they actually have a gill as well. Same thing, water goes in through the mouth, comes over the gill, oxygen's able to go into their system. A squid one we're probably not going to see, but the squid's is roughly, if we look at the underside of the squid, its gills are roughly about here. They're really hard to see, so we're not going to focus on those ones. So they all have some characteristics in common. So if we focus solely on something like an organism having gills, we'd actually put these three into the same group, the same file. But they've actually got more different about them than they do in common. So let's start off by chopping up this one. Okay, I'm going to remove this side of the fish's body. Okay, and we're going to have a look inside. Now, one thing with our scalpel, can you see that it's got a flat side and a round side?
Yeah.
Yeah, everyone can see that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, the flat's the fun side. If you can put your finger on the flat side, you're all good. You go to touch the round side, and you'll end up like I did down in Bordertown when I was teaching there in hospital getting a tetanus shot. So, highly recommend you don't actually touch that round side when you do dissections next year. Okay, so my dissection or my cutting is going to be just short, simple little cuts, and I'm going to follow the bones of the fish through. So I'm basically going to fillet it. Now there will be a bit of blood because they are living organisms, so just don't get freaked out by it. And if this grosses you out, don't ever marry a fisherman. Okay, so this is the internal structure of our fish. Now, this is just the guts. This is its stomach, swim bladder, bum. That's all in there. Okay, so when it eats, that's where it all goes. It's got a little tiny heart in there as well to pump the blood around. But we're not really interested in that. What we're interested in is this structure, and let me just clean it up a bit for you. Can you eat it? Not now, but it is delicious. Sorry, vegetarians, but it is. Okay,
Sophie.
the structure we are interested in runs from or through the centre of the fish here. Does anyone know what that structure is? It's the spinal cord. Okay, and off of the spinal cord you can see the bones of the fish. Okay. So that's one of the things that separates out this organism, is the fact that it's got this spinal cord. And if we followed that up into roughly about there, you'd find its brain. we're not going to look at its brain. Not today. Okay? So, that's the key characteristic that separates this organism from the rest of them. Okay? So the presence of a spinal cord separates the fish from a squid and a prawn. Let's go this way. Because the squid's the most fun, so I'll save that for last. Okay. This one, prawn. Now, if you look at the outside of our fish, what's it got on the outside? Scales, and underneath the scales it's got?
Meat. Flesh.
Flesh, so skin. Okay? Underneath that, that's where all the muscle is. So that's all just muscle. Now, if we have a look at the outside of our prawn, what do we notice?
It's hard.
And put your hand up if you think. Yeah? An exoskeleton. So it's actually got its skeleton on the outside of its body. Now, there is a big difference between a shell and an exoskeleton. The big difference is that the exoskeleton can bend. Okay? It's jointed. So every limb which is covered in an exoskeleton has joints. Who's ever eaten lobster? And in particular, the arms of the lobster. If you've got the arms of a lobster, you bust them open, it's just got flesh inside of it. It's delicious. But there's no bones inside that. All of the structure of this organism comes from these components on the outside of this exoskeleton. So, let's bust it open. And on the outside is what's called an exoskeleton. Okay? And that exoskeleton, who's ever seen the beak of a squid? Okay, who doesn't believe me that there's a beak? If we go in to the centre of it, can you see the beak?
Yes.
Everyone down there see it? We've got a beak, which is basically our hunting tool. Now, the reason we need a beak is because of what the squid eats. A squid eats primarily these guys. So why might the squid want a beak? So, yeah, to get off or break through the exoskeleton. So we need a nice, powerful beak to actually get through it. I'll pop it out just so you can see it. There we go. All right. Now, let's separate those away. Can you see how pointy that is? Okay. Can you see how pointy that beak is? You've got that top and bottom. Okay, so we can crush stuff. And then around it, so that's what the beak's situated in, that's all muscle. So it's all nice and strong. So they're very powerful when they're eating.
Where's the yellow come from?
I think they came from either the fish guts or the prawn. I'm not too sure. Came from somewhere. All right, now I'm going to show you a characteristic of the squid. Now, hopefully you know what phyla the squid comes from. I'm not going to tell you now, but one of the characteristics of the phyla that this comes from is what's called a limy shell. So, that limy shell we find on other organisms from this phyla, like snails and cockles and things like that. What do we find on the outside of a snail or a cockle? Your shell. Okay, now, does this have a shell?
No.
Can you see a shell on it? No. It's actually got a shell though. It's just in a spot you can't see it. Now, if you're a bit squirmish, this is probably the worst part. But we're just going to decapitate and pull the guts out of the squid.
Oh my god.
There we go. Alright. There goes Squidward. That's its stomach contents, yeah. Now, I haven't finished. There we go.
Oh, that crunch.
Okay, here comes its shell. Are you ready? Do you believe me there is a shell in here?
Yeah.
Well, could you do?
That
Plastic.
is the limy shell. Now, it just looks like really thin, clear plastic, but it's made out of a chemical called calcium carbonate, and that's what we refer to as a limy shell. It's got to be made out of calcium carbonate. I'll rinse it off.
I'm never eating squid again. Put me off.
My grandpa would.
No, I'm kidding. I'll eat it. I love how as soon as he rips the legs off, he's
Now,
like, there goes
if
Squidward.
you have ever found that you have a seafood allergy, please don't touch it. But if you would like to pass it around and have a feel of it, now don't be too rough with it. Okay, you can give it a bit of a flex, you can give it a bit of a bend inwards, but don't bend it over double. Okay.
Mikhail, he hesitates to
Let me just draw
He
it
didn't
off.
get much at all. So how about
Alright, so as it comes around, it'll get around to everyone. Don't hog it. Okay. So, structurally, these guys all have certain things in common. Okay, they've all got gills, they've all got a digestive tract. They've all actually got some system within them to carry gases like oxygen. But there are key characteristics between this organism, and this organism, which mean they belong in different phyla. Okay. Now, there is one more thing I'm going to show you, just because I like it and I have fun with it, is I'm going to take out some of old mate's gills.
isn't there water in its eye or something?
He's like, no, don't do it to me.
He's dead.
Do fish have water in that, clear water in their eye?
Same as you do. It's optics fluid.
People eat.
Hey? What, these? Oh, the gills? I guess you'd put them into soup.
Can you get it in?
The gills into a soup.
Can you take its heart out so we can see its heart?
The heart's too small. It'd ache. Alright, so have a look at the structure of the gill. Now, it just looks like it's some sort of a clump of tissue. But when I put it into the water, and in a minute you can come past and have a look at it, what you should notice is that it actually spreads out, and it's like a bunch of tiny little feathers. So in a minute, you're going to come around and take some photos of things. One thing I'll do is I'll put this over here, so you can have a look at that separate. You don't need a photo of this for your sheet. Okay? So, we've got our fish. What's the standout characteristic of the fish?
Got a spinal cord.
Spinal cord. Of the prawn? No? George? Exoskeleton. And of our squid? Limey shell. And they're the characteristics that mean they're in different phyla. Okay? So, your task now. We've got a couple of stations set up. So, we'll have one here, and I need that limey shell back in a minute. Yeah, you can stop video.